Welcome to the Five Fun Film Friends Films podcast, aka the Calligram podcast. Welcome. You know us by now. My name's Jackson.
My name's Izac.
My name's Noah.
And the three of us are 3/5 of Calligram fucking pictures. There we go.
Now, Jackson, what are we talking about today?
Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I've gathered you all here today. In the middle of the night, butt-ass naked.
What is this podcast?
Tied up.
No. Try again, Jackson.
I actually kind of want that butt-ass naked in there. It's funny.
You'll never know if any of us are wearing pants.
You'll never know.
It's like a Zoom meeting.
Now we know what Jackson does in their Zoom
Yeah,
meeting.
now all Jackson's Zoom meetings.
I've spoke too much. This is why I don't lead the podcast.
Right. So Jackson, awesome harmonica intro, by the way.
I appreciate that.
What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about the absolutely entertaining topic of producing a film. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if producing is the most entertaining topic out there today, unlike acting and script writing, which we've talked about before. But you know what? I'm going to give it a hot crack, the good old college try, and I'll try and make it as entertaining as possible for anybody that may or may not be listening in the ether.
The reason Jackson just said he's going to give it a hot crack is because Izac bent over and Jackson some subliminal...
There was a hot crack inside.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Noah. I don't know what's going on in that brain of yours.
That's alright. Jackson, it was his idea actually. Jackson said, look guys, we've talked enough about your arty, wishy-washy bullshit.
Yeah.
And he just said, look, let's talk. I want to cut the crap and talk brass tacks.
Jackson said, I want an episode about myself.
Yeah, Jackson said, we've talked enough about you two. I want a me episode.
I've been kept on the sidelines for long enough and I have a lot of shit to say.
Yeah,
and it's all coming out.
He's been bugging us for weeks. He's been chewing at the bit to talk about producing.
Well, you know me, producers just love to talk and talk and talk. Mostly about themselves. So
yeah, especially you. You're just always going on, man. It's getting ridiculous.
I just have a silver tongue. I don't know what to tell you guys. People tend to like I have a charming voice, I've been told. May or may not be from relatives.
We give him a platform to talk about himself, and the first thing he does is say, "My voice is just gold."
Bro,
guys, drop a note in the comments.
Yeah.
Is Jackson's voice A, sultry, B, sexy,
Jackson's
C,
left
powerful?
his Tinder account in the bio of the comment section of this video, so go ahead and click that. He's got a bunch of shirtless photos.
Yeah, he really likes long walks on the beach.
Which he's great at, by the way.
Yeah.
He's great at taking
We've all taken them with me.
Yeah.
A lot of people like listening to music, but Jackson always pays attention to the lyrics.
Yeah. He's emotional and sensitive, and he writes poetry.
He's so cute. It's actually silly.
It's so silly.
Hey, what postcode is this, bro?
Oh shit, I don't know.
If there's any...
Ask him to dox himself on the
Yeah,
box.
right, no way.
No, if there's any hot
4178.
If there's any hot sickles around the 4102 area.
It's Wynnum 4178. I wanted to meet him so bad in film school because he was just so cute.
He was
I
so
saw him
cute.
on the bus every day.
Everybody was dying to meet Jackson.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
I was just. I was like, Jackson, when we were pitching Flesh and Ivory, I was like, Jackson, you don't got to do a damn thing. Just get up there and just look cute. I'll do the talking.
This episode is going so much better than I thought it was going to. I could do this for an hour and a half. Honestly. But unfortunately, I have to be the adult in the room and steer us back on track to producing.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what sort of format we're going to go with here, guys. Did y'all have any questions you wanted to ask me?
Yeah,
or am
I've
I
got
going
some
to spit
starting
off the
questions.
bat?
Yeah.
I totally got questions.
Perfect.
Noah, you go first.
First question. Say you're, like, in this day and age, I know we're working in Australia. Let's say you're in Hollywood and you are left with this task because nobody else can do it. how do you go about rehabilitating Amber Heard's career? From this
Yeah,
point
please.
forwards?
And please
Rehabilitating
be,
her career.
yeah, please be go into detail.
Okay, honestly, like, I'm not even joking. I would probably tell her to sit on the sidelines for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Until it's past, like,
Yeah.
public knowledge and everyone's just
I
more or
love that
less
he gave me a
forgotten about
serious
the
answer to
incident.
this question.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even joking. She
Yeah.
needs to
Jackson
wait
has
this out.
solutions, guys. If you
Uh,
have problems, he has solutions.
I mean, if we're being completely honest, Aquaman 2 cut her down to 10 minutes. They need to fucking just cut her out. But that's a whole different story. So yeah, let 20 years
Not wrong.
pass. Let 20 years pass. Everyone will more or less forget about the incident. Probably start her in a smaller role. Maybe not a leading actress, but probably a small support.
Yeah.
And we will gauge the audience reaction based off that. And then I think we will continue from there. Maybe by the time Aquaman 12 will be out, and then we could bring her back in if
she can
we're
have a
really
real
thinking
turning
about
role.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as whoever the fuck she plays in that, but maybe like another character. Maybe she could play like a fucking fish or something.
She can voice a fish.
She can voice. Yeah, actually, that's perfect.
Yeah.
'Cause does anybody even really know what her voice?
No,
she
people
doesn't have
don't
like
know.
a significant voice.
No.
Yeah. Just like one of the other most beloved public female actresses, Ellen DeGeneres. She voices a fish.
Yeah.
And she is lovely, I
whose
hear.
scale is totally clean. Whose record it couldn't be cleaner.
Yeah.
She went out and apologized, and everybody forgave her.
Oh, yeah, me too. I forgave her
Yeah,
immediately. Just
completely.
if she just did that intro dance again.
That's all you need to
just
do
dance,
nowadays. Just an apology.
please. Yeah, just an apology and a quick little dance.
You know, I found the general public is really open to honest apologies and are very forgiving.
They were, yeah, especially
Especially when
This is definitely it.
especially when the apology is in reaction to a very serious thing you've done.
Yeah.
And only just after everyone started accusing you.
Oh man.
There's a limit. There's a limit
Oh.
on cancellation, like how many years. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like Mel Gibson, that's 15 years. Because it might be worse.
Yeah, no, this is much worse.
Right.
Much worse. So I'm going to stick with my plan of
20.
20 years.
20 years.
And then just slowly ease her back into the public spotlight. Now, I want to make clear, I don't want to work in the industry ever again. I would never work with her.
Right.
I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I was tasked to do that, that's probably the route I would go down. But I don't want to do that. So I just want to make that clear. So
I did say it as a joke.
Yeah, well, where do we go back to?
Well, you said that was your starting question.
That was my starting question.
So is there another
I
starting question?
thought it would be funny, then I got a genuine answer, and I was like, oh, we're actually not
Yeah, this
cutting
is
this.
interesting.
Anyway, did you have an actual question?
I have questions.
I've got answers.
I have a list.
And I got a list of them.
I ask this question to everybody who comes to the podcast and talks about what they do.
Oh, God.
Why producing? Why did you get into it, and why did you start producing? I don't actually think I even know the answer to this.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Go.
I just kept getting pushed to do it.
Right.
I remember, actually, I was in university in first year. We had a cinematography class where we had to make a short.
Yeah.
Without.
Is it the first thing you produced?
That was the first thing I
There
produced.
we go.
So
That's hilarious. Because
In the theater?
I co-wrote and co-directed that with Zach, my
Yeah.
friend Zach. Yes.
I can't remember if it has a name, so I don't really know what to refer it
No,
as.
I can't remember either.
Okay. Well, I think it didn't have any dialogue. That was like the whole point of
No.
the short.
Yeah.
And I was in a classroom in one of the computer laboratories at the university we went to, and Zach, who you mentioned before, came up to me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to produce for this assignment we got to do?" And I was like, "What does a producer do?" I genuinely had no idea. And Zach's like, "Oh, easy stuff. You know, budget, schedule, find some crew and cast." I was like, "Fuck it, sure, why not?"
Yep.
Yeah. And ever since then, every project someone has asked me to produce, I just keep saying yes. And generally speaking, after the project's done, I say, I'm not going to produce again. And then I kept getting sucked back in.
That's right. I do remember
Yeah.
Jackson being like, I don't want to produce anymore. It was such a scarring, horrible experience on Zach and myself film that Jackson was like,
No.
fuck this, I'm out for life. There's no way.
No. That wasn't a bad experience. I have had those experiences, but that definitely wasn't one of them. But essentially, yeah, for some reason, there was just a series of projects where people kept asking me to produce, and you know what, I actually did enjoy the experiences. People kept telling me I was decent at it, so I was like, okay, I'm happy to continue doing that for people, especially people that I like to work with, such as you guys. So I really enjoy helping people bring their scripts to screen and making the products that they want to the best they can.
Beautiful.
So I think the natural progression from that is, what does a producer do?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
actually.
because, okay, so people say, oh, there's producers in the industry and they produce things, but like, I feel like a lot of the time on projects, it's just like, oh, there's a list of 10 producers because they sent an email one time and that qualifies you for being a producer, essentially. Like, oh, you brought one person to the project or you even floated the idea past a person over lunch. You're a producer now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's executive producers who run the whole thing, who accept the Oscars when things win Oscars. And those people accept it because they had to organize the whole damn thing from the ground up, basically. Yeah. So let's not say what all producers do. Let's say Jackson, as a producer, arguably the executive producer on all the shit that you've done, what do you do? I put it this way, instead of doing that, because that's going to get complicated really quick. As soon as you get a script, or you hear about a project that's coming to you or whatever, what's the list of things that you do and what's the start of it? Like, what's the first thing you do?
Okay, so, well, first of all, I think the basic first step is to read the script.
Yeah.
So that's always a good starting point. And so I'll read the script in its entirety, like, a few times.
Okay.
Just to get a really good gist of what I need to do.
Yeah.
And then from that, I'll make a list, which is probably the number one thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do I explain this? So I'll kind of picture what the final product looks like and reverse engineer what I need to do to get to that point.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I will usually start from the hardest things I need to do and then break it down into easier steps to get to those harder things. I think one of the hardest parts of bringing a script to film, at least from my point of view, is finding locations.
Yeah.
Because who the fuck wants to let people film in their house for free?
Yeah.
You know, most of the time that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I take the script, I first figure out where can we shoot this, and I make a list of the different locations in the script, and then I start writing down ideas of where we can go to source locations for the film. And then there's multiple things I'm doing at once, by the way. Locations, and then I need to find cast and crew.
Yeah.
Luckily, because we've been mostly doing this through uni, we already had most of the crew there.
Yeah.
So I could source them pretty easily. So once I sourced the crew and I sourced the cast, I jump to organizing equipment for that as well, because you can't make a film without a fucking camera.
When you're approaching locations,
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Because obviously it's you know, it is inconvenient, and especially when we were in uni, you know, we weren't allowed to pay.
Yeah, we had
couldn't
rules,
pay anybody.
rules at our uni where you're not allowed to pay anybody for what they've done.
Yeah.
You can give them like a gift, which
Like
is
a
like a
gift
sort of
card.
like, oh, here,
Yeah.
you know, here's a gift to let us shoot in your place.
We weren't allowed to pay because it changes things in terms of the university's insurance policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. So how do you...
And the other reason is because there's just no money.
Yeah,
Next to no money.
All the money was us.
Yeah,
exactly. Students fund every
Yeah,
project.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. So
So
really,
how do you go about that?
so it depends what kind of location it is. If it's interior location, I generally find that a lot easier. Say if it's a house, for example, there's a specific, I would talk to the director or the screenwriter to figure out what type of interior location would be and what that would look like. So if it's a average middle class brick house in the suburbs, that's probably one of the easiest I've found to find.
Sure.
Because at least one person in my social network has one.
Right.
And I feel as though I could probably convince them to let a bunch of film enthusiasts film there. And it's usually up to the parents,
Right.
which are a lot harder to convince.
Right.
So I usually start with my social network to see if anybody has a location similar to what we need.
Yeah.
And then I just convince them to let us film there.
Cool.
For free,
Yeah.
preferably.
Yeah.
If it's an exterior location, that gets a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Because, say, if it's in a forest in the middle of fucking nowhere, that's when it gets a little trickier because you do need council approval for that. And getting council approval is a pain in the ass. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking because they ask you so many questions like, what are you doing on the land? How much land are you going to be like shooting on? How much time are you going to be shooting there? Do you have a risk assessment? And risk assessments are annoying, but obviously they need to be done for safety. Do you see yourself damaging the land? How do you plan to reduce waste? And yada, yada, yada. All fair things to ask, like completely understandable. But there's just a lot of back and forth between the council and myself, and that takes up a lot of time. In order of actually finding the place, literally, I have gone on Google Maps and just looked around. Certain areas to find like a place that kind of looks like what we're looking for. There are some well-known council-owned locations around the city that we're in, Brisbane, and Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, that are well-known amongst filmmakers that are commonly used to shoot films. So I would ask other filmmakers like, hey, have you ever shot or known any places that have been used for shooting that look something like what we're looking for?
Sure.
So again, it kind of just goes down to my social network. Which is usually the easiest place to find what I need from, because they've been through the same experience that I have, generally speaking. Other than that, looking on Google Maps, and literally just scouring areas that kind of look similar to what I need.
Have you cold called places?
Oh yeah. Theatre. Yeah. So that film that I mentioned before, the little short that we did, that Zach asked me to produce, we needed a theatre. We actually needed the theatre, the stage, and I think we just needed the stage. No, we needed the stands because there was a shot from the back looking out to the dark stands.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how. This was the easiest thing I've ever done, by the way. So there was a performing arts centre near myself called, I won't say the name.
No, that's the name.
I won't say the name. So there was a performing arts centre near where I lived at the time. And I was like, hey, these guys have a theatre. I'll give them a call. And I called them up. And I was at uni at the time having some lunch. And I was like, hey, this might be a strange question. I'm a film student. Did I say film student? No, I actually don't think I did.
Oh, wow.
I think I was just like,
Smart.
hey, I'm a filmmaker producing a short film at this current point in time. We're looking for a theatre to use for one scene in the film. And we were hoping that you might have some space for us to use sometime in the near future. At this point in time, we don't have it in our budget to be able to pay you with cash, but we are looking at festival distribution, and I think it could give you a lot of exposure for your performing arts centre.
Pay him an exposure.
Exposure.
We're one of low budget producers.
Yeah, exactly. And they were surprisingly very chill with it.
Cool.
Yeah, so we exchanged a few emails, we organised the time and date. I think from memory I had to give them our risk assessment as well, which is fair enough, of course. And we literally just, we rocked up on the day, pulled our gear out. I think there was only a few of us there.
Yeah.
And so we just went onto the stage. There was one person assisting us who works at the theatre. There was one person supervising us, and she was surprisingly chill with everything that we did.
Yes.
So we had no problems at all. And we shot the whole scene in a couple hours.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
So cold calling definitely works. You just have to be a bit lucky and know how to make it sound like an opportunity that they want rather than begging for something.
Yes. Yeah, that's good advice.
So yeah, locations I have found have been the hardest ones, but there's always a way around it. There's always a location you can find. Whether or not it's exactly the one that you're looking for is a different story, but nothing's perfect in this world. Sometimes you just have to make the best of what you do.
Yep. I think there's a lot of filmmakers who I met who have very fixed ideas about exactly how they're going to shoot their thing, and so they won't budge on location.
Those are the worst people to work with, I've found.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be flexible in a collaborative environment.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
That's exactly what collaborating is.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
It's in the name.
Yeah.
So that's one major part of it. The next thing is, you said finding crew, obviously. When you're in uni, that's sort of easy. You just source crew because everybody who works...
And everyone has to be on the assignment
Exactly.
in order to pass the subject.
But have you had to work to convince certain crew members to do crew work who haven't wanted to do it?
Yeah. Yes, I definitely have.
And how have you managed to do that?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely been some crew members who, through no fault of their own, have been burnt from previous experiences with other films, and
generally because they have to do more work than they should have to have done.
Exactly.
In that role.
But the reason that they end up doing it is because they actually can and they're really talented.
Yeah.
And so those people end up being really high demand people who everybody wants to work with.
Yeah.
Because they've saved a few films' asses in the past.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you want them too, because everybody wants them.
Yeah, this is definitely not about a specific person at all.
No. I'm just saying, like, there's definitely multiple people who I've met at uni who've had this experience, even out of uni, who've had this experience where it's just like, you're the person who everybody runs to do the thing because you're great at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Please work for us. And they're like, well, not really. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Most of the time, I've never had trouble convincing someone to work on our project because we have a bad project. It's usually because either they're too busy or they, like I said, have been burnt from a previous project and either want to take some time or never want to do it again.
Yeah.
Which is probably the hardest thing to overcome, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can convince someone to do a shitty movie, but you can't convince someone to do something they just purely do not want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I convinced him by giving him money.
Right. We're not talking about anybody specifically, by the way.
No. Generally speaking, money generally works because people like money.
People need money.
Shocker.
Yeah.
People need money because we live in a society. Who would have thought?
That's crazy, man. That's deep.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to say.
Yeah,
generally speaking, we've had a pretty easy time crewing people. A, because it's in uni and you have to, but also B, people like the projects that we've done.
Yeah.
People like working on them.
That's really lucky.
Yeah, and I think we have a pretty good reputation of running a smooth set and just being fun people to work with.
That's another really... So so have you. You've worked on films where the crew, the cast, like the whole dynamic of the film has ended up being pretty damn dysfunctional in that people are showing up late, people aren't getting to places at the right time, Jackson's visually freaking the fuck out right now.
Flashbacks?
Yeah, having flashbacks right now. But like... And I've worked on films like this too, and I'm sure Isaac's worked on films like this too, where just like the synchronicity of everybody working on the thing is just, it doesn't function. And so how do you do things in order to make those sets function? Or what do you do in order to get that to work?
Because some people just don't even want to be there.
Yeah. There's a lot of answers to that. I think the first and foremost one would just be to crew the people that you know are going to work hard.
Okay.
And do the work properly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So it kind of starts there, knowing who you're bringing on board.
Just like the Hitchcock casting rule, right? It's like 90% casting and then 10% the actual direction that you end up giving the people.
Probably.
Yeah. But it's the same with crew in a similar way.
I honestly do think it's the same with crew.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're going to be working with crew people who you've never worked with before. That's just a universal thing. But as cliche as it sounds, the number one thing you need to run a good set is clear communication, because when you have a whole bunch of people from multiple departments, none of which really interact with each other, you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what you're shooting that day, when you're shooting that day, who the actors are going to be on set, what time everyone is rocking up on set, what time you're going to finish, when you're allocating time to pack down, when you're allocating time to take lunch. Because if you don't do that, everyone in their department are going to be doing their own thing and not realizing what everyone in the other departments are going to be doing. And you ever played Chinese Whispers? It's literally Chinese Whispers on set. You tell one person to do something, by the end, it's a completely different thing to what you're wanting them to do. And so I make sure that all of the heads of the departments are on the same page every day. Oftentimes before we start shooting, and especially like after we finish shooting, so that we know what's happening the next day, because information trickles down from top to bottom. And I'm not saying, people on... Anyway...
You mean top to bottom in terms of who has authority? Because if you're the head of department, the director of photography...
Yeah, you're the head of that department.
So then your first AC is under you, for example.
Exactly. There's a hierarchy in every department.
Yeah.
And so I make sure that information is feeded through very carefully through each department. All of the heads of the departments are on the same page about everything needing to be done that day, the next day, the week, whatever that time frame may be. And then I trust them to pass that information on down the hierarchy, I guess you could say.
And you always send out call sheets and shooting schedules to everybody.
Yes, the day before.
Yeah. So all crew members have that. Yeah, I'll say this to throw my 2 cents in the producing hat, which is like, I like a small set. And if there's unnecessary people around, it's harder to keep everybody on the same task.
Yeah, you don't want too many different conversations in the same room.
No, it's an absolute pain.
You need to be talking about the film.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you give people less opportunity to talk to people, all you have to do that is have less people there.
Mm.
And so then people end up focusing on the task at hand as opposed to drifting off doing other things. So, yeah.
Yeah. You know what the best thing you can do as a producer is? Get a production manager. Makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think there's obviously a big difference between the size of the productions we're doing now and like the major Hollywood productions.
Sure.
Because they have, fucking 5 different kinds of producers all doing different tasks.
And different units.
And different units, exactly. Whereas when you have one producer, you're doing the work of what 5 Hollywood producers would be doing, just on a much smaller scale, of course.
Yeah.
But when I have a production manager, dynamic becomes a little bit different because they assist me with budgeting and scheduling, which takes a little bit of weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of the smaller problems on set can be resolved by the production manager, so it doesn't take away my focus.
So what are those problems?
It's usually, hey, we need this extra prop that we didn't account for. Can we have some money?
Right.
And then he says no.
Right.
No, I'm just joking. It is usually monetary.
Yeah.
I've found last minute purchases for props, last minute purchases for whatever things you just don't really think about in pre-production. Problems arise in production.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to spend a little bit more money than you budgeted for.
Right.
And sometimes you have to say yes, sometimes you have to say no. So a lot of people go to the production manager. Production manager also makes sure we're recording receipts properly.
Mm-hmm.
Production manager can sometimes coordinate with the AD to like handle scheduling conflicts
Mm-hmm.
or errors if there is a massive problem. Just those sort of small things that arise.
Sure.
You know, fires that come up that you didn't really see coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just need to get a fire extinguisher, and my fire extinguisher is the production manager sometimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, is just a little bit of extra help, which is always handy.
Cool.
Speaking of putting out little fires as they come up, in terms of safety,
In terms of putting out literal fires.
in terms of putting out
Which
literal
definitely
fires
never happened on a
on
set.
a set, yeah. Obviously, in terms of responsibility, being producer, you're the head of responsibility on the film.
Definitely.
And the most important thing, safety.
Of course.
At the end of the day, how do you approach making sure that everyone acts in a safe manner? You know, because obviously there's risk assessments.
Yeah.
Because
There's things you can do.
crew members and actors are notoriously responsible for their own well-being.
Yeah, right. You know, we're all, which makes sense. Like everyone's focused on doing a particular thing, doing it quickly.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm
we
always
gotta
thinking
get the shot no matter if you're limbless by the end of it.
Yeah,
really,
right.
there's a lot of
Well,
that
I'm keen
attitude.
for that soundbite to go out.
Yeah. I'm not saying I endorse that view. I'm not saying that that's my opinion.
Sometimes that happens.
There's just a lot of people who are willing to do a lot of crazy shit to get a shot.
Yeah.
That's why stunt people exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jackson,
So
talk
Jackson,
about
safety.
handling crazy people, please.
Handling safety.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes it is hard for me to say no when someone wants to do something crazy to get a really cool shot, because I'm like, fuck, that would be sick. So sometimes I have to check myself before I start letting people do crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you are right. Safety is the most important thing on a production, and I don't want to see anybody getting hurt. Everybody has a copy of the risk assessment. We always have like a first aid kit on site in case something does happen. But in saying that, some people are just prone to accidents. Some people just don't have, I don't know how to say this without sounding rude. Some people can just do dumb shit sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And there's not really much I can do about that at that time, because did we tell the story about the fucking baking paper fire?
Yeah, we did.
We have. Have we told that
on the production episode?
Yeah, some motherfucker swapped. well, somebody put baking paper in our kit instead of diffusion paper, and it started a fire in our soundstage. There's not much I can do about that.
Yeah.
To prevent that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Human error is inevitable and it's going to come up. But the best thing that we can do is prepare ourselves for any situation that may arise, which we identify from the risk assessment. So when we do our risk assessment, we pretty much go through everything that could possibly happen at each different location in each different scene, and then we put measures in place to prevent those when they do come up, or at least prevent them from coming up in the first place.
Gotcha.
So fire extinguishers, safety kits, making sure our cables are checked and tagged to make sure that they don't have any defects, making sure people are wearing appropriate footwear and clothing.
No thongs on set.
Yeah, we're not going into fucking war zones. It's
Yeah.
literally on the risk assessment.
Yeah.
Water near electrical equipment, yada yada yada. There's a risk assessment for literally everything you can think of.
Yeah.
And whenever we do identify a risk in a certain location or in a certain scene that we're supposed to shoot, we just put things in place to prevent it from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really does depend case by case what that is.
Mhm.
There's so many different risks that could happen.
And if you're a great producer, there's usually a risk assessment that's a piece of paper that's quite long with risk identified, and then what you would do to do, like, you have to do a lot of those to even be able to shoot
Yeah,
in certain
we
places.
can't get equipment without doing a risk assessment.
Yeah.
And it has to be preventative, not reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we get...
Isaac's also a great producer, by the way. We should ask him some questions later.
Yeah.
Secondary.
So I have,
Secondary.
I do have a
The
good...
B storyline.
Appreciate- yeah, right.
I do have a good question, but I want to first just get out the basics of the producing sort of
sure.
thing. So
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned candling casting.
Candling casting.
Candling casting.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Calligram
say
podcast where we start putting C's in front of every letter to advertise our brand. I can't even speak English. So early on in the process, you have to get cast involved.
Yes.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Finally.
And from... So I know from my perspective what that's like, but what's it like casting a thing? So do you sit down with your directors always and cast together? Like, what's your role in that, and how do you go about doing that?
I always sit down with the director because the director's the one on set that works most closely with the actors,
Sure.
as you guys know. And I've been lucky enough to work with directors that have a really good sense of knowing what makes a good actor and what actor would fit the role that they're looking to film.
Mm-hmm.
So I would talk to the director about the roles themselves, the sort of backstory of the roles, and we talked about this before. Star now, casting director, the two avenues we go through. We would create like a casting presentation of pictures of what the characters would look like, a description of the characters and their backgrounds, their age, yada yada yada, and then we would put that up with our casting director and or email it to people who apply through Star Now. When you do through Star Now, they ask you like the questions of the roles.
Yeah.
What?
I think it's on there.
Yeah, it is already on there. So we filled all of that out, put the ad up online, casting director goes through their thing, and then after however long we want to wait, we get fucking hundreds of people applying.
Right.
We literally got like hundreds of people applying for Attraction or Flesh and Ivory now.
It's wild.
It's never hard to find a quantity of actors.
No, the quantity is not the problem. The quantity is not the problem. No, I'll not say the second part.
So I guess here's a good question. Have you ever had problems with actors, and what do you do?
I mean...
I know one incident, but we can't talk. We literally cannot talk
Okay,
about
right.
it.
I can't
Fair
really
enough.
talk about that.
Fair enough.
Look, I don't think we've ever casted a problematic actor.
Sure.
Yes.
Like, the people we've casted have been delightful to work with.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this just to be like cushion my answer or anything.
Yeah.
But like genuinely, you can generally tell a person is a good person to work with through their audition. And apart from other things, we tend to pick people that we want to work with.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. But yes, of course, some people you're going to cast and then they end up either not being the right fit for the role, you find out later, or they might have poor work ethic, which you can only really find out on set.
Yeah.
And a whole range of other things, but you kind of deal with those when they arise. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and I think it's always a good idea to hire slow and fire quick, especially if they're not a right fit.
Yeah.
Because the longer you leave it, the longer the problem stays. It just causes more and more problems. It snowballs so much.
Yeah.
And it literally has the potential to like train wreck an entire production if your actors not working for the production smoothly.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever had any like major problems, unless you can think of one.
Not major problems, just like little fires, like you were saying.
Little fires,
Yeah.
nothing serious, and you just got to put them out one way or another. Yeah.
On the topic of fires,
Oh god.
this is when the podcast gets really good. Jackson, without naming names or years or places in specifics, Could you tell us some stories about
Oh yeah.
bus fires that you've encountered during productions? Could you tell
Bus
us?
fires.
bus
I'm
fires.
saying as a metaphor.
Oh, that's a strange metaphor.
Oh, just
I'm
a
sorry.
big fire.
Sorry, a big fire.
Okay.
Could you tell us about some disasters that happened and how you managed to solve them as best you could, and because that will help people who find themselves in similar scenarios. Also, because I just want to hear ridiculous
Yeah,
stories
me
about
too.
this shit, but I think they'll be helpful. So
For people listening at home, Noah's just slid Jackson a piece of paper that says "Don't incriminate" on it.
yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Oh my god.
You're looking at minimal risk with massive upside potential.
Aerotime International.
Jackson, dish the goss, boyo.
I'm trying to well, the fact that I can't fucking name anything, it makes it a little bit harder, but I'm trying to think of probably one of the biggest ones we've had. Should we discuss the sound incident? Is that a big enough fire? Or have we already spoken about that?
Oh no, we can talk about that.
Do you want to?
Yeah, we
Okay.
just no names.
No names, no
Yeah.
places, no times,
No.
no beginnings, no middle, no ends.
No.
Okay, so we once had a project, a short film.
Sure, that's fine.
Yep, a short
Yep.
film. Yep.
Okay, cool. We've had a project. We had a short film which was nearing completion, and we managed to find. Actually, no, that's not even the beginning of the story. We had a sound person already at that point in time.
This was week before production.
Yes, there was
remember?
yes, a week before production. Oh my god.
Crazy.
I don't really want to delve too deep into this because I could go on forever.
Yeah. We found out the week before the film, Jackson, that you were producing was meant to be shot, that a crew member had been acting very ungraciously on a previous production. We found out this the week before production.
Yes. Yes.
So at this point, it felt like it was too late to replace a position.
Right, because it's a week.
Yeah. But at the same time, Jackson and I were very confident that we didn't want this person on our set, acting the way that he was, making people uncomfortable. That's all
Sure.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Yes. And we did manage
To get
to
the
get someone
person
else.
gone.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I'll come in here. How did you manage to excommunicate somebody from a production without disastrous fallout?
John Wick is excommunicado.
The funny thing is, I can't even remember. I genuinely can't remember how we did that.
We made him sound
Assistant.
design assistant.
Yeah,
So he didn't have to be on set,
That's right.
and he didn't have to be in the same room as the sound designer. Pretty much we just glossed it and said, okay, you can help with wrangling sound and doing a handover, which was like one afternoon where we could be in the room.
Sure.
Just so it was like, hey, we're just going to minimize the role. We're not eliminating it.
Yeah.
Right.
Which helped.
Essentially, we put him into a position on the film where he was more or less isolated from the rest of the cast and crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think was probably the best course of action.
Yeah.
Firing him would have been a entirely different problem in itself.
Right.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. We won't go into it, but we were in a circumstance where we could not fire
This particular
person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we did the best that we could, and we just separated him from the rest of the cast and crew.
Right.
And that seemed to have worked out and extinguished that particular fire. Yes. Thank you. I wasn't sure how to tell that story properly.
Oh no.
No,
that's
that works.
okay.
That's fine.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have started with that one.
Well, I mean, that's good advice. Like, sometimes you are in a position where,
Yeah.
because of the circumstances of the project that you're working on, you can't just fire the person and get a new person. So what the hell do you do? You know?
Yeah.
Do you okay, so here's another one that I was trying to bait out of you,
Oh,
because I
God.
know about a production that you worked on. So what happened? And how did you save that film?
There was a lot that happened. I don't even know which particular one you're referring to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, I know the film, but there's a lot of problems.
Oh,
that
yeah.
had.
Well, tell us the problems.
We had a very bad AD, was the first problem.
Which is not a role where you can have a bad.
You can't
No.
afford to. No.
You cannot afford to have a bad AD.
Even if you're an inexperienced AD.
The AD, for those who don't know, is literally the one who runs the set during
Yeah,
shooting.
first assistant director. That's the full title.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. And they keep the production on schedule to make sure that they get all the shots they need. And if there's any conflict, they come in and they have the right to talk to the director about cutting certain shots if we're running out of time. They're just the one in charge.
Sure.
And honestly, most of the time they kind of overrule me on set. And I'm completely okay with that because that's their job. We had an AD that was literally making the schedule the morning of the shoot. So nobody knew what was happening, including myself. And so when you have a whole bunch of cast and crew together already on the set, which sometimes was an external set, out in a field somewhere, maybe a forest, who knows, you cannot afford to have them all waiting for a schedule because that wastes time, it wastes money. You can't get all of your shots in, so you have to do it another day, and that's a whole different problem in itself.
Then you have to tweak next day's schedule in order to fit the which he
hasn't even done yet.
Right. Well, that's in defense of this AD. If you don't write the schedule for the next day,
God.
you don't have to change it.
That's big brain.
I've been looking at this through the wrong lens.
yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Jackson, he's not a bad first AD, bro. He's just a bad producer, man.
Jackson playing checkers, the AD playing chess.
And this, I feel like the AD role is more suitable for certain personality types than others.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
You could agree with that?
Totally.
You can't be too agreeable. You have to be a little bit pushy, especially if you're working with a director and you need them to cut certain shots. You need
Especially
to be
when
able to...
directors are bloody pushy.
Yes.
Don't cut
Yeah.
my shot. I want my
Yeah.
shot. Blah blah blah.
And also, first ADs generally head of safety too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no room for negotiation on that.
No.
Yeah.
You need to be able to justify why you want to do something that the director doesn't want to do, and also like have pretty thick skin, and also just really be good at arguing. To be very honest with you, I don't know if I could do that. Maybe haven't really tried it before, but this particular AD did not have the personality type to be able to do that, and so a lot of the time just kind of let the director do whatever they wanted to do, which a lot of the time meant we were over schedule, and certain shots just couldn't make it into the film, unfortunately, because we ran out of time.
Right.
Yeah, and so it is what it is. Also, this is a little bit of a side note. He threw up blood on set, and then I told him to go to the doctors, and he was like, "Nah, I'm fine," and just kept going.
So the head of safety is
The head of safety threw up blood and refused to go to the doctors to see a professional.
Oh,
serious?
Yeah.
Just blood?
I don't know if it was just blood, but he said that there was definitely blood there. Yeah, the weird thing when he came to me is like, is it normal to throw up blood? And I was like, no.
He
No, it's not.
voluntarily told you he was
yourself?
throwing blood.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
voluntarily
what?
told me to produce that he was throwing up blood. Was weirded out.
My God.
Was weirded out that I told him to go see a doctor, refused. And honestly, I mean, what was I going to do? Carry him out?
Right.
He insisted he kept working, so he sat back down in his fold-out chair and kept making the schedule.
Jesus.
So that was horrible. And at that time, it's too late to get another AD.
You're right.
No one's familiar with the script. No one's familiar with the scheduling, the cast, the crew. You got to be very familiar with who you're working with and what you're working with to be the AD.
Yeah.
So there was literally nobody I could replace him with at that time. So reflecting on it, probably my fault. If I remember correctly, it was the director who wanted this particular person as their AD, and I probably should have been a bit more pushy, but I didn't know him too well at the time.
Sure.
So I gave him the benefit of the doubt, or gave this person the benefit of the doubt. So that was a horrible fire that I failed to put out in time.
Okay. But the film got done.
Done is definitely a word.
Okay. The film was not completed to a standard where what needed to be shot was shot.
Over half of the sound didn't work.
Oh,
Wow.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember hearing
I
remember
actually,
that?
yes, I do
Yeah.
remember this.
So half of the sound...
Okay. So let's say didn't work. What does that mean?
Didn't record.
It wasn't recording.
Didn't record. It either didn't record or it was corrupted. So we literally didn't have the audio files at the end of it.
Great. And how did you do to fix that?
so much time in an ADR room. It's not even funny.
Right,
And
ADR.
ADR just
There's probably sound effects recorded.
sound
that
effects
wasn't
recorded.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
like
whole-
most of the film,
Right.
and it is blatantly obvious.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Yes.
Right.
Yes, that was very unfortunate. For some reason, it's always sound that's the biggest problem on a film.
Yeah.
It is just so frustrating. And yeah, that gave me a heart attack.
Mhm.
That was a fire that came out last minute. I don't know if it was because of the sound recorders not being familiar with the equipment or the equipment being faulty.
Yeah.
But there was something that I literally got told like at the end of shooting. And I was like,
Great.
cool. That's
Nobody
cool.
had checked along the days of shooting that
I
the
don't
sound
know.
recorded. Insane.
Apparently not.
Insane.
So yes, that was a horrible experience. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sucked.
Yep.
And so the final product sounds like shit.
Yep.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So why was everybody so keen to work with you after that film, if the film wasn't good?
This particular film was shot in a very tricky location, which I think people were impressed that I managed to get a hold of.
Right.
Which is interesting because I'm pretty sure a lot of film people actually have shot at that location.
Oh, right.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know why. Can you tell me?
I could.
Go.
Absolutely.
Go.
So.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
I'm just thinking where to begin. No. I swear to God.
He's just
God,
too
that was
goddamn
potent, that
too damn
pause, wasn't
just
it?
good. Too goddamn cute.
Yeah,
not
I
to
just,
work with.
I know. I was just like, so here are the bonuses of working with Jackson. Number one, if he's on set and you just need something to relax you, you can just look at his lovely, lovely little face. And he's just so adorable that you just go, you know what? I think there is good in the world.
Yeah.
And I reckon I'll be alright.
We're gonna make it through this.
Yeah, right. On a serious note.
Wait, I wasn't serious.
No, I do
okay.
mean that.
Okay,
I
cool.
do mean that. It's just it just
No,
makes
Jackson, we can't stand looking at you.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
Jackson's-
Isaac actually means.
It's okay, I can't stand looking in the mirror
He's a
either.
cutie.
Go on.
So I just heard after this that, just in comparison to some other productions that I'd worked on, the amount of tasks that had to be completed successfully for the films to work were pretty minimal, like interior house dialogue scenes,
Sure.
things like that,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, you can generally just go to someone's house that
Yep.
you can shoot. There's no issues there are issues with sound, but they're minimal because you're indoors, you don't have to face the elements.
There are issues with sound that are issues because you're working with people who don't know how to record sound,
Yeah.
as opposed to sound interference.
Yeah, because everyone's learning. Like
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I just heard just about the amount of things that Jackson had to tackle on this particular film. The fact that regardless of all of these fires that I was hearing about, I
Yeah.
heard about them in detail.
Yeah.
Jackson still pulled things together. And also another thing is, as we were saying, you can make the risk assessment. Of course you have to. You can have meetings with everyone. You can do all of these things.
Sure.
But human errors are going to arise.
Yeah.
And some of them sometimes are just things that you honestly cannot plan for. And Jackson, when human errors arose, Jackson acted in the best possible way with absolute class. And sounded like he was always composed, even if Jackson is freaking out at the time or was freaking out. So the biggest thing, because, the director creatively directs the film, sure. But the face that you're kind of you look at in the room when something goes wrong is the producer's face.
That's true.
Because his expression is going to tell you, like, are we sinking? Is the boat sinking? No? We're good? Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And Jackson, I know Jackson might be having fireworks happening inside his brain or whatever, but Jackson always keeps composure. He's always classy, faultlessly, when he's producing, in my experience with him, and what I heard about on this film. And also just super hardworking, like was happy to just go, this film has all of these logistical hurdles that all of these other films I could have picked to produce don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to have a challenge because I'm
right.
confident in my ability as a producer.
Yeah.
And Jackson took it. And you know what? Shit happened, but Jackson put out the fires, And then when I was looking for a producer for Flesh and Ivory, I was so chuffed because Jackson approached me
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to approach Jackson anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great, and I just knew that, you know, Flesh and Ivory was going to have logistical things, but just absolutely nothing that Jackson wouldn't have already
Yeah.
Bro,
handled.
that shit was nothing compared to what I've
Yeah,
been
right?
through. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah.
And just it helped as well, just because I'd produced a few things
Mm-hmm.
before then as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew not as well as Jackson, but I knew what being the producer in that situation would have been like, and the fact that they even just had something come out of it
Yeah.
was like, whoa, I can't believe you've pulled that off. That's insane. You know.
Thank
So
you for
yeah,
that, man.
that's okay. No, that's why I like work, and I'll always want to work with Jackson.
So
Yeah.
Jackson, how do you remain as though you are
Yeah,
composed
dude.
when
I want to know this.
the boat is sinking and on fire, and people are taking cups and
Yeah.
throwing the water out?
I am just so dead inside. No, I'm just joking. I don't really have an answer for that, to be very honest. I think I just have a certain temperament and relative confidence in my ability, and I understand that morale is such an important thing to have on set.
Yeah.
So even if shit is hitting the fan, like, I know at the end of the day it's gonna be okay. I think it's just a certain personality type. Some people are going to be freaking out and it
Sure.
shows. Some people are going to be absolutely deadpan, even if they're freaking out on the inside. I think it just happened to be somewhere more along the spectrum of not really showing too much emotion when shit is hitting the fan. So I just
Gotcha.
try to be as logical as possible when things are going wrong, because most problems have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
I found, like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You just have to identify what the problem is. Okay, what'll stop that? Okay, then let's figure out the steps to do that. It's not too hard. And I have faith in the people I work with. So at the end of the day, I just kind of know everything's going to be all right. So I don't really have like a tangible answer to that.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
No.
I honestly
yeah.
think it's a combination of temperament, personality type, confidence, and who you work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have confidence in who you work with, and you obviously have confidence in yourself that you can do the thing that needs to be done. Do you know how you got that?
How I got that?
Yeah.
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, which is hilarious because most things I have like a lot of anxiety about.
Sure.
So I have no idea how I got that.
Right.
I think I've just gone through enough trial and error
Yeah.
and shit experiences to like nothing really surprises me much anymore,
Right.
to be honest.
You're just like, yeah, been here, done this, I can do this.
Literally.
It's okay. Yeah.
Once you do something 1,000 times, you just lose all feeling about it.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like the natural experience.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's pretty much it. Trial and error, learning as you go, and then just taking what you learnt and implementing it again when the problems come up. Because they're usually the same problems. I'm not
Sure.
even going to
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's a few certain things that come up constantly and then a few extra ones. But yes, I feel like most of these questions I don't have true answers for.
I think that's a true answer.
Yeah, I think that's a true answer
Okay.
too. It's just
Yeah.
like get good at problem solving on the spot, pretty much. And the more
Yeah.
you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah,
Producing-
and you get good by solving problems, yeah, which you've done a lot of.
Yeah.
Literally, producing is 90% solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even joking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're usually not that hard. Like I said before, the biggest problem is just how the fuck do I make this film?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just reverse engineer everything you need to do. You make a fucking list.
Yeah.
You just list out everything you need to do, and then you execute the plan. It's kind of like running a business in that way. I'm not even going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of figure out what the end product is going to look like. Figure out all the different elements you need to make that final product, and then figure out what the elements make up those elements, and then you kind of just come down the little map until you got like so many little tiny things, and then you just start picking those up until it kind of reaches the final point.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that made any fucking sense at all, but that's just the picture that came into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is an interesting thing to talk about from the perspective of a producer who, like, I don't know, I've made films with you, and so has Isaac. And when I know that I'm just going to write the thing that is the movie that I think needs to be made. But if I pitched it to producers who weren't you, or who were other people, I feel like the ideas that are more, like, maybe abstract or, like, don't have like a super wide appeal in terms of like marketing, or like people who will actually want to watch it will want to watch it, sort of thing, if that makes sense. So when I give you a script that's strange or like not overly marketable or any sort of this sort of stuff, and you are like, let's go do the film, where does that come from? You wanting to... Because you could go... You know that you could go produce a movie that is going to do numbers, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why not? Why don't you do that?
I find it a lot easier to work on a project that I'm passionate about.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we have very similar taste in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I very much enjoy all of the scripts you guys make, and those are just like my favorite kind of films to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's definitely a trend between like the kind of genres you guys are producing right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
sure.
Yeah.
Which is like a sort of surrealist drama, I think is like a very
Yeah.
It's probably,
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
pretty good summary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really do enjoy those kinds of films, so I find it a lot easier to bring something to life that I actually am passionate about.
Right.
And luckily that's just what you guys are spinning out right now.
Right.
Yeah. You guys go make a blockbuster, I ain't touching that shit.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just joking. And also, the surrealist kind of films make for the most interesting and fun, logical problems to solve.
Oh, yeah.
There was a certain point in time in Flesh and Ivory when you guys wanted to make a green screen from pouring green paint down a wall and then like keying it out in post.
Keying out the green paint on the white wall. Yeah,
was
that
like-
wouldn't have worked.
There was a period of time I was like,
Let's
let's
Yeah.
fucking do that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
cool, but we tried something else. But it's just that kind of stuff I find exciting to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is true. Anytime I come to Jackson with some like ridiculous thing that needs to happen, he's just been like, "Cool, how are we gonna do it?" And generally, I like to put things in my script with like somewhat of a plan as to how they're actually going to able to be shot. Like, I don't think I've come to you with. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But I don't think I've come to you with anything that's been like ludicrously insane, like not shootable at least. But you've always been like, "Yeah, let's go, let's do the thing."
Yeah. I can't really remember where we were going with this. I don't even
Nothing.
know.
I asked.
I think Noah brought up a point about the fact that you'll like do something for like a film under like any circumstances.
Oh yeah, literally. If I had my heart set out to finish something, I'm gonna fucking finish it.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't come out the way that I want it, I'd rather it just be done
Yeah.
and not be perfect
Yeah.
than to never finish it because I want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like a fucking synecdoche play. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think work ethic is just very important in this industry.
In conclusion, find you a producer like Jackson who would do essentially anything to make sure that
My
your film
man.
gets completed, and barring illegal shit.
You know something I still feel real horrible about? On Bloom, you sent me to go to Woolies to go get a whole bunch of like, I think props and shit, and one of them was a lemon that needed to float. And I forgot the lemon, or maybe it was an apple. I'm pretty sure it was a lemon.
Yeah, lemons.
Yeah, and I forgot the lemon when I got back. And you're like, bro, where's the lemon? I'm like, fuck, I forgot the lemon.
And then you had to run and get
I literally sprinted back to Woolies.
Wow.
Sprinted back. I was jeans, shirt and all. And I was fucking sweating by the time I got back. But
Damn.
I got it just in time for the shot.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt so bad about that. So yeah, don't forget your lemons.
That's the producer.
You know what I didn't do? I didn't write a list.
You didn't write a
And
list.
that is the
That's the
conclusion of
problem.
today's episode.
Write your list.
I was so confident you were going to say you didn't make lemonade just then.
Oh, man, that would have been so good.
Wait, cut what I said. We're doing it again. Oh fuck! Oh shit!
I was full expecting.
Bro, I didn't even remember the thing about the lemons. I
Really?
literally didn't. I didn't remember it at all.
To this day, I still feel really bad. I
Man,
forgot the
I
lemon.
did not remember.
This fucking guy.
This happens on set and shit. I literally remember, but like you don't focus
There's too
on
many
anything.
things in your brain.
Man,
Yeah, it's too much.
you need to find yourself a producer if you're directing or doing anything who will just let you direct the scene and do that much. Like, I can't manage the set while I'm directing. Like, I can't do it. I have to focus on these actors doing the right thing and making sure that they're saying the lines the right way and fiddling with this enough. And so you need somebody who is going to handle all of your logistics of everything, because I don't want to deal with any of it. And most of the directors I know are not good producers because they're focused on doing something that's more, you know, we're all up in our heads about artistic bibbity bobbity harbity hoo shit that doesn't actually matter. And meanwhile, Jackson's here running the show and like making sure that everything makes sense and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
We will do perhaps a follow-up on producing at some point. I mean, some of this stuff, like a lot of like directing, producing, acting, a lot of that stuff comes up as we discuss films naturally, because it's like, oh, what did you do to direct this person to this, or how did you act this part, how did you prep for that, how did you plan? So like there's a lot of that stuff that's coming up in general. But hey, you know, Taylor's produced films. Let's have him and you on. You guys can go back and forth about how your producing strategies differ and are similar and all that sort of stuff, because you guys both do that really well. So.
And Izac.
And Izac.
When I need to.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, I'd be down for that, for sure.
Cool, man. Cool. Alrighty. There's no ending or good conclusion to this. We don't have a good transition point out.
Bobbity boopity.
Bobbity boobity.
And you said there wasn't a
there wasn't a good
conclusion.
transition point out.
Oh my god, oh my god. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in for this producing episode of Calligram Pictures.
Are we outroing with the harmonic? Sorry, Jackson,
Do
keep
we?
going. We never do.
We don't, we usually don't.
No,
we
we
can,
don't.
if you want.
We haven't?
No, we haven't.
Pretty sure we haven't.
Shit.
Maybe once.
Oh, yeah, we did once.
And then we never did it again.
Yeah. So keep going, Jackson.
Fuck. Thank you, everybody, for listening to... Oh, no, that sounded way so fake. Way so fake.
Anytime anything sounds way so fake, which is one word now in the English
It's
language.
wavy.
Anytime
It's wavy, baby.
Anytime anything sounds fake, I leave in the part where we say it sounds fake.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
God. Okay, cool.
Because that makes it not fake anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate you listening to the Calligram podcast this time. Fuck. Give me that fucking thing.
Good morning.
I hope you like producing, otherwise you just wasted an hour and a half of your time. But if you reach this point, then fucking respect to you. And I hope to see you on the next one. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.